Yo, 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 what is up, guys? It's Matthew and Michael back with
We're
Daily
back.
Bread and Business. And we actually have a special guest with us today, Joni Kruger. She's actually going to start her own podcast here soon. I've been helping her for a while now, and we'll just let her talk to you guys and kind of introduce herself.
Thanks a lot, Matthew. Matthew is hopeful that I'm going to start a podcast. uh, but the truth is, this young man and I've been talking for years since he was a very young boy. And over the years, he's tried to encourage me. And a lot lately, he's been pushy in the last couple of years, trying to talk me into it. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a great grandmother today. I'm a businesswoman, prior businesswoman. I started my career at 22 years old with a startup company called Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation. It is now Yum Brands, the largest food corporation in the world. And since then, my second career was in psychotherapy. So I went back to school and became a psychotherapist. I had been in practice for approximately 30 years, and I'm retired now from counseling. But the name of my organization or counseling center, it was Universal Concepts. So I still have that. But Universal Concepts was a different way, really, of helping people work through problems, whether they're in relationship with people or they're in relationships with substances. But the truth is I have studied universal law and natural science as a living philosophy for probably 30 years. And my counseling is based upon an understanding of the cosmos. And when I say the cosmos, I do mean the universe in its entirety. Uh, because I wanted to understand the universal mind, body, creator, creation, and so that I could figure out what its law was, and then I could teach people how to apply it so that they could create the life that they wanted to have. Because so many of us, first of all, if you don't know the truth, I mean, whether you know this or not, every therapist does counseling based upon their worldview.
Mm,
So I really wanted my worldview to be based upon truth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I didn't know how I could count on it to work every time.
hmm
Have you ever heard the statement, love never fails?
Yeah.
That's a scientific fact. And until 1996, until I asked God for the science to back up what God had already revealed to me from within, I was like, I need the science. Do you have the science? The next day it
Yeah.
was given to me. And so I have been a student of the University of Science and Philosophy and its living philosophy, how to do it, since 1996, which is telling you a little bit about how old I am. I will be 80 my next birthday,
She does
which
not
is
look
which is
80.
January. Thank you. She does not look
She does
80.
not look 80 at
God,
all.
thank you so much. So anyway, Matthew's been trying to get me to share my wisdom and knowledge with other young people, like he and I've discussed for years. I mean, Matthew and his brother Max used to come to my house when they were young boys, and sometimes they get in trouble because they would talk so long they didn't make it back to Grandma's house in time for dinner. But when Dad found out, what are you talking about? He said to those boys, "You're late for Grandma's dinner." You remember that? And
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, "Well, we
Oh,
were
yeah.
talking about God." And then he was like, "Oh, well, excuse me. Maybe it's okay." You know how a dad is. The dad didn't mind if they were over here having a conversation about God.
Yeah.
But anyway, Matthew is the instigator here. If I do a podcast, I want you to give. Okay, when I do a podcast, all all of the credit is going to this young man to my right. And I do thank God when he walks in sometime, like today, he was walking in my office here. And I was like, thank you, God, for sending him, even though he can be a pain because he's not going to give up. I know you sent someone who's determined. So, anyway, he does back off when I get nervous and scared about doing something like this. And then, but he comes forward again. I mean, I get another phone call from him. So I really feel like that he's in my life for a reason. And the reason is I'm electronically challenged. He's not.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a good point.
right.
I'm the same way.
Are
I'm
you?
so electronically
Well, thank you.
challenged.
And how old are you, Michael?
I am 17.
Well, isn't that wonderful? A 17-year-old and an 80-year-old electronically challenged.
No, Matthew knows. I mean, I'm
You're just learning?
I'm awful. I'll probably never
Okay.
learn, which I don't know. It's bad.
He doesn't apply himself to learn. That's the thing.
It's so difficult for me to learn how to do this crap. It's like,
Yeah.
You think it was easy for me when I first started?
no, but it's just I don't know.
I think it was easier for you because your dad is very good
I
at
get
it.
so like I don't even know. I don't even know what the word is. I get overwhelmed whenever I'm on the computers and stuff.
Me too. You know, like if somebody tries to just show me a few steps on the computer,
Yeah.
I almost freak out. My sister said to me
Yeah.
one time, because she's a brainchild like him on computers, and my sister just said, "Wait a minute, Joni, why are you freaking out on me? I'm just trying to tell you, take this step, then that step. But I mean, the computer's not going to blow up." And I was like, I don't know, Myrna. It's the only thing I've ever set out to learn in my life. I'll be honest with you, that terrorizes me.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I didn't grow up with them. You know, I mean, think of my age group. You know, I grew up with Colonel Sanders. I mean, he'd be 100 and something now.
Yeah.
So I'm in a different. It's like your little sister said one day to me, "You were born in the 1900s." I said,
That's
"Thanks a
Maggie.
lot, Maggie.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that." So anyway, I guess what I would like to share with you is that in my 40 years of experience, first in the Worldwide Human Resource Division and being a manager at corporate services, my greatest desire kept coming back to me. I started getting bored in the job that I had. And to be honest with you, all my life, I wanted someone to explain to me the God of perfect love that I learned about as a child. And when I would ask parents or I would ask a priest or a minister, I would just say, try to explain to me how there is a God of perfect love. And at the same time, explain to me all the agony and suffering that we see in the world.
You know, like
Like Charlie
starvation
Kirk.
or
Yeah, I want to know.
Charlie Kirk. Or,
Yeah. Well, I love Charlie Kirk.
yeah.
He's a lot younger than me.
Well,
Well, he was a lot younger.
that's
than
what
me.
we're saying. Like the tragedy, how
Oh.
God can be loving and
And how could Charlie? Oh, you're saying how could God have allowed him?
Yeah.
to
yes,
pass
yes,
away.
yes.
Yeah.
And I can answer that question too.
Yeah.
Because Charlie
Had such an impact.
knew the risk.
Yeah. He
And
did. He even spoke about it too.
Absolutely knew the risk that he was taking, and he was willing to take them. And I
Yeah.
really believe he was willing to take it, even unto his death.
Yeah. He spoke about that.
And I didn't listen to him. Like I said, he talks to younger people mostly, but I do keep up with what's going on in the world.
Right.
And I knew Charlie Kirk was just an incredible voice
He
for
was,
God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was an incredible voice for God. And whenever I did get a chance to see him, like on TV or whatever, I recognized, to be honest with you, if you have that enlightenment in you, you recognize it when you see it in someone else. Just like you two young men,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize it in you all. I see that light in your eyes. I see it through your skin.
Yeah.
I know that you all love God.
Mm-hmm.
I know you do. What I want people to know is how much God loves them, because
Same.
most people can't prove it to you.
Mm-hmm.
They if you ask an adult, Joni, how do you know that? And I'll tell you the truth. I think that when you have the desire to know God, like I wanted to know God, I can remember it started in first grade for me. First grade, catechism. I was 7 years old, and there was that question, what is God? And the answer was God's perfect love. And I said, well, how do you know that? I mean, you can tell me that, but my little baby sister just died. She's only 9 months old.
Mm-hmm.
How could that happen? With a God of perfect love, of supreme intelligence, that has a perfect plan of salvation for all of us, how would that God explain the universe in which I live?
Yeah.
Well, you don't know if I ever found any answers asking those grown-ups? I did not.
Mm-hmm.
Not one that was sufficient for me.
Right.
So I kept going, out in the outer world trying to find out. And then later in life got really tough. And I finally went inward. I finally just said to God, you know what? I'll tell you, it was December 31st, 1990. My granddaughter had just been born,
Mhm.
and she was living in an abusive marriage with her mother, and I couldn't stand it. It was breaking my heart because my daughter's a disabled adult. Then she has a baby, which I don't even know if she can take care of. And then she's being physically abused by a husband. And the baby and them had been at my house.
Hold it up. Like,
The baby and them had
Yeah,
been
there we
at my house, and they were leaving.
Stop.
Are we messing this up?
no, I'm just being funny.
So anyway, what happened is I was so upset that night. They were going back to the abusive household. They spent the night with us. And that little 6-month-old baby, my beautiful grandchild, was just reaching for the window. She already knew she didn't want to go back to that abusive house.
Yeah.
And I went upstairs, and I had become very proficient, quite a master at meditation. And what I mean by that is just being in the stillness of mind, not thinking, not feeling, just being quiet. And in that quietude that night, something miraculous happened. I wanted to get really still, but the baby had upset me so much when they were leaving, and I knew that baby's just going to have another generation of abuse. We're just going to repeat this generational problem. And I wanted to go into the stillness, but I couldn't get there, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't quiet my mind down. So there was a piece of paper laying on my desk. I just pick it up because I couldn't go where I usually go. And that was like a sanctuary to me, going within. But anyway, couldn't get there. So I picked up this paper and I found myself writing a letter. Dear God, nothing I've ever learned has taught me a damn thing. So I was just wondering, how can you call yourself the God of perfect love and leave me powerless to help my own children? I mean, even as I say these words, I know it's true. I know you are the God of perfect love. I know you are in my heart and soul. But yet, can you teach me? And I said, and two, just, I know I've always been a workaholic, but I'll make myself available 24 hours a day, seven days a week. Just teach me. Then I wrote on there, assume I know nothing. I wanted to start from the beginning, like you and I would have to do on computers and electronics. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, that I laid then I put love Joni, and at the end of my letter, I put P.S. If I find out and can prove to myself, I will become a voice for that for the rest of my life in any role that you would pick for me. So I kind of put myself out there. Well, as soon as I got done writing the letter, I laid it down on the desk and I tried one more time. And the next thing I remember was probably 45 minutes later, my husband called up the steps and said, did you fall asleep up there? Because he knew I went into meditation, but it would usually be about 20 minutes of quietude. This night, it was just like the peace that I felt. It could have gone on forever.
Yeah.
But Norb interrupted it, and then he felt bad about it. But as it turned out, when just my letter and that desire invoked the Holy Spirit within me, and I was convinced that it did, because the very next day, every time I'd ask a question just inwardly again, I would hear the answer quicker. And I was like, you're like a counselor, because I'm asking the question, you're answering it.
Mhm.
And it just started counseling me on how to get through this problem with my daughter and her child. And it told me what part I played in the problem. And it guided me through the whole thing. And 6 weeks later, my daughter left that abusive marriage and never has returned to an abusive relationship again.
Yeah.
Well, that was proof enough to me.
Right.
And then I thought, well, how am I going to learn to give counseling to other people? And I realized what I was going to have to do is I got to stay in touch with this teacher within.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is there's only one therapist. There's only one lawyer.
Mhm.
There's only one accountant. There's only one anything. God is all there is. There
Right.
isn't anything else. So I finally started, understanding what it was trying to teach me. And I was like, wow, this is pretty great stuff. And I remember in the East, they had a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear from within. And see, I had given God 5 years of me going into meditation, listening. But you know what I didn't realize? I didn't realize I was going to run into God in there. But I should have, because I remember hearing what I used to think was a cliche, be still and know that I am God. So if you go in the stillness, then you can listen, right? The conversation is two-way. God knows what you're desiring, what questions you have in your heart. And when you get quiet, it comes. And I thought, I never knew how to be quiet. I'd always talk too much.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Are you a talker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk a lot.
It's pretty hard for me to sit still, be quiet, and
It takes practice, I can tell you.
yeah.
When I first started meditation, you know why I did it? Only just so I wouldn't think about my daughter and my granddaughter being abused over in Louisville.
Yeah.
Really.
So see, when I couldn't think, then I couldn't feel the fear I felt. So I love those 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night, just being in the stillness. But then when I wrote the letter, I realized I wasn't in there alone, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I thought I mastered this state of mind where you could go into the stillness. I mean, I practiced it 5 years. In the first year, every time I would get real still, I'd fall asleep. Well, you can't fall asleep. You're supposed to stay awake because you're supposed to be listening.
That's what I struggle with when I meditate.
If you try it, and do you fall asleep every time?
I try to. I sometimes fall asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing you want to do is stay awake, because you can't hear the inner voice or the insight that's going to come to you. And sometimes you can go ahead and fall asleep and you'll know in the morning. But all I want people to understand is that all my life, I was raised a very strict Catholic as a young child. And I'm telling you, we prayed more than we did anything. We prayed more than we ate, because we hardly ever had food. There was 8 kids and 1 mom raising all of us. So mom didn't think food was important. She thought spiritual food was really important. So we go to mass every morning. We had to go to Catholic schools. Even if we had to starve to death, we're going to pay tuition. We were really just like probably the poorest kids in the class, to be honest with you. But the thing was, we weren't really poor because we were so rich in spirit. We would go to church 8 times a week, novenas on Tuesday night, Saturday confessions, Sunday the whole family. And at night, as soon as we got done eating, if there was any food to eat, we would kneel down on the hard linoleum floor and say the rosary together. So we were a family that prayed together, and we prayed together all the time. But then even as I got older, to me, that still wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed to know this God. I couldn't figure out, how come nobody really knows God? And when I talk to you, I know Matthew really well. I've known Matthew ever since he was born.
Yeah.
I remember changing his diaper, taking care of him a couple of times.
Probably.
You were really little, though. I just want you to know. But I remember, and if you ask me about Matthew, I could talk about Matthew probably all day long.
Yeah.
Because I know Matthew.
Right.
Well, I wanted to know God like that. I always say to people, when you go to church and everything, they teach you about God. That's not the same as knowing God.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's suppose I never met you, ever.
Yeah.
And somebody kept telling me about you. Would you say I know you?
No.
Right? You can't know. You get it, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would know about him. Suppose I knew you
just-
forever and you told me about him. I still wouldn't know him.
Yeah, you would just know of them.
Right. And that's how I felt that I knew God.
Yeah.
I knew of God. I knew about God. But what I wanted in my heart and soul was I wanted to know God. Because I finally came to the conclusion that that was the only person, individual, who could teach me about God. We have to have a relationship. just like you and I have to have a relationship. So after I wrote that Dear God letter, I knew that I had invoked the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit just started talking to me, counseling me. And I was always real intuitive. I could pick up on things inside, from the inside out. But also, if someone was in my hemisphere here, I could pick up on people too. Even if they didn't say what they were feeling, I
Mhm.
could feel what they were feeling. And I remember one time when I was working for not quite, well, working at KFC, I told this story, told this story many times, but at the time I was just the receptionist there in a beautiful lobby right next door to Colonel Sanders' office. And the executive that runs Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation from the parent company came in. And I said, I bet you're really upset about your CFO who's going to be quitting. I named him at the time. And he goes on up to the office. He had no idea his CFO was going to be turning his resignation that morning.
Hmm.
So I got called up to his office after the CFO told him he was resigning. And they were very good friends. It was a big deal
Yeah.
that he tell the chairman of the board first, not me. So the chairman of the board called me up to a meeting and he asked me, he said, how did you know that Mr. Jackson was leaving? I was very upset with him that leaked out before I knew. And I said, oh God. I said, Mr. Jackson didn't tell me. He said, who told you? I said, nobody. He said, nobody told you, but you know? And I said, yeah. He said, are you real intuitive? I said, I'm sorry. I don't know what that means. And he said, do you get things from, you just know? And I said, oh yeah, I do that all the time. He said, how do you think you know? That's intuition. And I said, well, I'm sorry. I've never even heard that word before.
Mm.
I was probably about 22 years old. I was real young. And I said, he said, how long have you known how other people feel? And I said, all I have to do is be around them for a little while. And I said, I think it's because I love people,
Yeah.
and I do. If
Mhm.
you walk into work, and you look sad one day, and Mr. Rose asked me, he said, what told you that Mr. Jackson was not going to work here anymore? I said, the last few months, all the executives come through the main lobby. And I said, he just looked perplexed. He looked like he had a really hard decision on his life. And I knew that he had a good marriage. He said, how do you know he has a good marriage? I said, oh, I've been around him and his wife at events. And he said, oh, so you knew that too? He said, because I'm telling you, you're absolutely right. He has a great marriage. We have a great relationship. And I thought we just lost it because you told me he's resigning before he told me. I said, I'm really sorry. I said, I just needed to never open my mouth, I guess. But I said, normally I'm smart enough not to, except unless I know everybody knows it. If everybody knows it, then I know I can say something.
Yeah.
But I said, I really just messed up here, Mr. Rose. And I said, I promise you, nobody told me. Nobody. And he said, I believe you. He said, but you also have to be the most intuitive human being I've ever met. So then shortly after that, that's when he drafted me to be his executive assistant because our president died, had his heart attack one Friday night. And he just said, you're going to work with me. And of course, I was like, no, I don't want that job. I was having fun just being a pretty receptionist, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So anyway, he wanted me to come to work for him. And that was the start of this real start of my career with
Yeah.
KFC because Mr. Rose and my top boss both said, Joni, you have something that is so unusual and it's called common sense. And he said, common sense is not so common, but it is an inner wisdom and knowing that comes from within. And I thought, I wonder if he's religious,
Yeah.
because I always felt like I had that. It's kind of like you didn't really have to tell me what was right and what was wrong. It's something within me told me,
Mm-hmm.
even when I was doing it, something wrong. the conscience within me would tell me.
Hmm.
And think about the word conscience, CONSCIENCE. You know what this stands for? With. Con means with, and the other is science. So it's with know. In other words, we know. We really do know. Now, there are people, they say, have no conscience. I think you have to get to be so evil, it's unbelievable, before you get to the lowest level of consciousness you could possibly be and awareness. And there are people that get there, you know. But down deep inside, they hear that same creator that you and I hear. They hear it say, oh, I don't know if you should do this, you know. You might want to think about this twice.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I got it. Well, I ended up leaving KFC after 20 years. Then I went to work, I went back to school at 40 to get the degrees that went with the job I already had. I didn't have the degrees. So I got an undergraduate in business, and I went to get my master's in business. And after I was about halfway through my master's program, I was taking a class one night, and I asked my professor if I could do my paper. It was an organizational systems class. Have you all ever taken one of those?
No. No.
Nah.
Well, what they do is they study organizational systems. And of course, the one I was most interested in was a human being as an
Right.
organizational system. So I asked him, can I do my paper? And I got real excited about it.
Mhm.
Can I do my paper on a human being? And he goes, do you really know how to do that? And I said, oh, yeah. And he goes, go for it, you know. So anyway, I was real excited. First paper in college, you know, most of the time you just write down whatever they want you to write down, research the
Yep.
same stuff that other people said.
Yep. Yep.
But this was different. This was a paper that came from my heart and soul. So I got up and I started doing my presentation. And at the end of the class, the whole class started clapping. And I thought, well, this is strange. Then the teacher stood up in the back of the class and says, dear God, do you not know you're in the wrong school? And of course, I was shocked. I was like, guess I'm not going to pass this class. But what he was trying to tell me was I had a gift in the field that understood human beings, or that could understand the field of human beings. So he asked me, what would keep me from being in the right school? What did I have against the field that I was so gifted in? I said, I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't know who the field is. I'm just going to college for the second time at 47 years old. So he said, well, like the field of psychology, natural science, physics. I said, oh, those are the things I really like to study, but I never have time because I got to get through all these business classes. But he said, let me tell you something. You need to think about what it is that's keeping you out of the field that you're so gifted in. And if you don't mind me being a pushy teacher, there might be 10 other people in this class, Joni, that's in the wrong school. But you're such a good example. I just want to use you. So I was like, okay, I'll think about it. I think I do know. But I said, to be honest with you, it's kind of personal. I didn't know if I wanted to share it. He said, class, do you all mind if it's personal? I mean, this guy was a good teacher. The class goes, no, we don't mind. So I was like, oh my God, now what do I do? And so I said, to tell you the truth, I took my daughter to counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists. I mean, since she's 5 years old. He said, how old is she now? Well, see, I was like 45, so she was almost 20 something. And he said, I just have one more question, then you could sit down. And the question was, would you go into the field of psychology if you thought you could help your daughter? I said, what kind of question is that to ask a mother?
Yeah.
Yes, the answer is yes. But anyway, he profoundly affected my life. And so then I come home and tell my husband, I think I'm going back to school for a third time. And at this
For
point,
psychology.
at this point, I was 47. I
Yeah.
graduated at the age of 51 with a master's of science in education with a major in mental health counseling. And I started my private practice called Universal Concepts Incorporated. And what I wanted to do was, actually understand the universe in which I live. And at the same time, it's interesting how God works. I was teaching in downtown Louisville. I was teaching at a Unity Christian Church. They had asked me to come down there and facilitate a class on a book called A Course in Miracles.
Is that the book that she showed us?
That
last
real big
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
And the funny thing about the book was I was just reading it.
Yeah.
So when the minister of that church, and I don't go to church there,
Mm.
the minister of that church asked me to come there and teach that class. I was like, why me? And she met me at a picnic. And she said, light knows light. And I said, what does that mean? She goes, well, I'm not worried about it. We wanted to let someone teach the book, but I was looking for the right person, and you were it. And I was like, what makes you know that? She said, you won't be teaching anything but love, and love can't hurt any church. I was like, wow. So anyway, I agreed to go there. Can't tell you how many years I was there, 5, 6, 7 years, teaching in their chapel all the time. And so then I decided to take that professor's advice, get into the field of psychology. And I really felt like, to be honest with you, that God was trying to direct me into the field of psychology. And then it finally dawned on me. Think about the word psychology. It's the psychological nature of the universe. It's the psychological nature of God. Isn't that what I wanted to know my whole life?
Yeah.
I wanted to know the nature of God. And I thought, oh my God, you're pointing me to the field of psychology so that I will know the psychological nature of everything. Huh. I said, why do I have to get another degree to do that? And here's what came to me. You have to give to Caesar the things of Caesar's. In other words,
Yep.
how was I going to use my voice? How was it going to be very powerful if I didn't even have a license to be speaking on the subject of psychology?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, God, I get it. I'm going back to school for 3 more years. Well, first I went to.
Did you want to go or no?
I didn't really want to go to school for 3 more years, and I'll tell you the truth. I didn't think they were going to teach me the psychological nature of God and the universe.
Yeah.
I thought they were just going to teach me what they wanted to teach me, and then I'd have to still learn the other.
Yeah.
So it seemed like double work to me. You know
Right.
how you feel about school? How
Yeah.
you feel about school?
I mean, it's,
Come on, tell us.
Yeah, tell us how
I mean,
you
I
feel.
don't.
Tell
I
the
don't
truth.
enjoy it. I don't. Well, I don't like it. Hold on. I don't enjoy it at all.
Good. And do you realize that most geniuses didn't go to school past 14 years old? It's because they didn't like it like you.
Yeah.
It's true.
Like Elon Musk and Jeff
Mm.
Bezos.
Yeah.
And,
Thomas Edison. I'm not sure. Most of the ones that Goodrich came up with Goodrich rubber tires for the first time.
Yeah. You told me that
Most young
story.
geniuses
Yeah.
do not want to, once they learn the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic.
That's what I'm saying. Like we should have got out of school at 14 years old. That's whenever the Amish get out of school.
Exactly.
It's awesome because they don't pay taxes and
No, they do
don't
pay
have-
taxes. That's actually false.
How can they pay taxes if they don't?
I
have
know for sure they pay
anything?
taxes.
I
The
think
only
they pay
thing that-
taxes too.
And the
Yeah,
only
they
thing they
do.
own is land.
No, but they pay
Income taxes.
income taxes, and they
And
don't.
sales tax too.
I thought they didn't.
But they don't buy anything.
I don't. I heard that they pay income tax, but they don't pay sales tax.
Oh, really?
That's what I
On their
heard.
businesses and stuff?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Well,
I don't
the ones
either.
that run businesses probably do.
You might want to Google that.
Hey,
Yeah.
ChatGPT.
We'll get that answer for y'all soon.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just like you, when you tell me you don't like school or he had to get out a year early because
Yeah.
he loved it so much. over
He
here.
loved it.
Yeah, I
Oh
loved
yeah,
it
you
so
mean.
much.
He expedited his exit, and that's one way to do it. And you're staying there and suffering for another year.
And
Yeah.
then he's trying to go to college and
Yeah.
suffer for 4
Yeah.
more years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to go to college for 4 more years after that?
I don't know.
Oh my
I have
God.
no idea. Like
Okay.
I seriously don't know.
He
Okay.
applied.
I did apply just in case because I still have 8 or 9 more months till I can decide.
Okay.
But
Well, I'm not discouraging you from it, but there's so much indoctrination nowadays in colleges that I'm wondering sometimes what they're teaching.
yeah,
If I were you and I would create a Turning Point USA chapter there.
yeah.
Oh,
I
yes,
thought you could
can.
do. I thought you could do it outside of college
You can do
too.
it in high school too.
You can do it in high
But you
school.
can't do it if you're not in school.
There's like they have Turning Point Action and Turning Point Faith. But
Turning Point Action
what's
is
the
in school.
difference in the two? You know,
Yeah, what is the
faith
difference?
is like more God related stuff, like
Mhm.
getting in churches and
Right.
stuff like that. And then the suspected spam.
It's good. Yeah. What time is it?
yeah, he's got to go somewhere.
It's only 5:00.
So if you went to college, what would you study?
Probably
Oh,
just
don't talk to
business.
Still on. That's what I studied.
Yeah, waste time or no?
No, basic. It's not a waste of time because you accounting.
What was the question you asked me?
What did I ask him last? Do you remember?
What is Turning Point
Turning
Faith?
Point,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, Turning
In
Point.
action. Okay, so Turning Point Faith is where basically you get into churches
Mhm.
and you help out with different godly stuff like that. And Turning Point Action is more like political.
Okay.
So like you're joining your local Republican representative community, or like you're getting in politics as a young representative of the Republican Party. That's Turning Point Action.
Okay.
So that's the difference between the action and the faith.
Okay. I didn't know they had two different
Yeah.
things there. You know, my promise that I told you I made to God in that Dear God letter, that's what kind of motivated me to go back to school for 3 more years to get that psychology degree.
Yeah.
Because I really felt like I was being divinely guided to do that. I really didn't want to get in.
Yeah.
When I went to apply, they told me that I probably wouldn't get in because I didn't have an undergraduate in psychology, and I was asking to take a master's program. And they said, well, you don't have an undergraduate in psychology. And I said, well, I worked in a worldwide human resource division for 20 years. And we use a lot of psychological theories that you all have passed on. And I said, I have a news bulletin for you that most of them don't work. And of course, that professor wasn't very impressed with me at first.
Right.
And she said, well, there's 8 people applying over here at Indiana University Southeast, and there's 80 people applying, and 8 people will be accepted. So she was trying to
Really?
basically tell me I wouldn't get in, you know. And then after you write your autobiography during the summer, then we'll decide. I'm 50% of the vote, and then Dr. Fields is the other 50%. I said, okay, sounds good to me. Of course, I really don't think I was wanting in. You know, I was just wanting to go if that's where God wanted me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think personally it's where I wanted to go.
Right.
I couldn't see the big picture because
Exactly.
I hadn't figured out yet that the big picture had to do with me coming back to, hey, what is the psychological nature of the universe?
Mhm.
Because whatever that is, it's God's nature.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because God is all there is. So anyway, I finally got the big picture in my mind of what God had in mind because it just taking me little baby steps. But I also like to be obedient. You know, I like to get up in the morning and say, hey, God, what do you have planned today? Here's what I have planned. And then I want to be obedient if God had a better plan. Because I've found sometimes God's plan is a lot better than mine.
Yeah.
Mhm. Always.
Yeah, every single time.
So anyway, I when she said you probably won't get in, I thought, well, that's good news. I'll go ahead and do this stuff I'm supposed to do, then write my autobiography. When I got there, she asked me, she said, you know, I don't believe in having dual relationships. And I said, what does that mean? She said, well, you know, if I'm your professor or one of your professors, I can't be your friend too at the same time.
I gotcha.
And I said, oh, okay. And so she said, but after you get out of school 3 years from now, I would love to know you. And she told me that really they just picked me first.
Hmm.
You know, and I was surprised. I was surprised that, you know, they, you know, the only thing she asked me to do was take one undergraduate class that diagnoses mental illnesses, which we did not do, of course, in our human resource division.
Yeah.
And I took that one class and I knew what was wrong with my daughter. So I really didn't have to go on to get the master's degree to get my daughter help finally.
Yeah.
I only took that one class of abnormal psychology, and I knew. And I called her up one night, and she put me in touch with a psychiatrist, and we got there, and I told her what I was seeing, and that was my first class. So then I even contemplated maybe not going in it again, because got my daughter help already. Only took one class.
Yeah.
But then I started realizing that I think God wanted me in there.
Yeah.
So I thought, I don't know the full purpose of it yet, but I'm gonna go with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna